And thanks to everybody. We had about 100 people registered today, and we have over 30 now on here, but they'll join as they come, I'm sure. But welcome everybody. My name is Kyle Haugen. I'm the Rotary Public Image Coordinator for zones 25B and 29 through the middle part of the United States and a little bit in Canada. And I'm glad you're all here for our monthly regional webinar for public image today. I want to, as is custom, show a little slide. Here's our public image team for the zone. So it's not just me, but we have an advisor and 7 assistants, some of whom are online today that are from throughout our zones that can support you and your districts and your clubs, and all have a lot of skills when it comes to everything public image as well. So that's our team. And, we're really excited about these webinars, as I think it's a really good way to have regular contact with all of you and to deliver information that's topical and useful. It also allows us to go deeper than on particular subjects than if we were doing an information dump at training, and also not everybody's going to be able to be at a training. So this is a way that we can at least connect with more people as well. Each month our webinars do a couple things. Typically, we try to share some sort of example of how public image working together with membership or the Rotary Foundation can increase our success in all those areas. Or maybe it's showcasing a best practice that one of our district public image teams or a club is utilizing that you can borrow. And we'll have a deep dive into a particular topic, which today our deep dive is kind of a double feature, so to speak. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. Along with, and just before we get too far into it, here are the upcoming kind of deep dive topics that we're going to have in April. The importance of why, and talking about sharing why something is important as a way to really connect with people and get people more engaged. And I think that's a key part of public image. And then talking about how everything in Rotary in May is really part of public image, because it's all part of who we are, how we view ourselves, and how other people view us as well. And then since the end of June is the end of the Rotary year, might as well have a little bit of fun for that one as well. So that's what we have coming up. In a minute, I will, at some point here, I'll put the registration links in the chat room as well. And we'll send those out in follow-up email as well. So a couple other announcements. If you're a district public image chair or district governor, I'd like to remind you to complete the activities on the regional public image citation. You got a couple more months to do that. That's a great roadmap for having a successful year. So hopefully you've been utilizing it throughout the year, and hopefully you complete that kind of what you've done and show us what you've done, because that's a great way to be recognized for your activities. And we have our public image resource library on the zone website as well, that I'm sure either Sean or Scott can put a link to in the chat as well, which is a great place. We're trying to put as much information there as possible to make it easy for you all to find. And so you can pass that along to other people in your districts, other people in your clubs, so on and so forth. And as a public image team, we're here to help. If you have any needs, we can assist in any way with idea generation, team meetings, training sessions. That's what our job is. So please, we try to reach out, but please don't hesitate to reach out to us as well, because we're here to help. At the end of this session, we'll be having time for some questions and answers. So if you do have any questions for any of our presenters along the way, please put them in the chat box. You can send them to me or to everybody. It's okay. And we'll kind of moderate that at the end, and we'll go from there. So the focus today is all about fundraising, especially because as we're getting nicer weather and we're getting where there's a little bit of a slowdown in COVID, I think more clubs are going to start doing more fundraising events. So we thought that'd be a good thing to do. But first, We thought it'd be good to hear from a few of our public image team members again. Last month, Gretchen Nolman, Stephen Sputney, and Scott McLaughlin shared a few thoughts on some different questions, and we'll get some tips from a few others today. We'll start with one of our assistants, Sean Berry, who's a member of this North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale Club here in suburban St. Paul, Minnesota. And he's also the District 5960 public image team leader. Sean, you've been in the public image sphere in many different roles over the years. What do you think is the best resource out there for people, or a couple resources, I guess, if you really want to go there, that you think people should be aware of?
Other than going to the zones website and the resource library, and also all of us here, Kyle also asked me to show an app that I created for People of Action. So if you go to poaphotos.app, this, you can create your POA photos very easily. And I just want to remind everyone, we're looking for action photos. So you open your photo, action photo, you notice that they're not posing for the photo. Click templates, Rotary, Rotaract, or Interact, and click the template you want. You click any of the corners and drag, and you can make it larger or smaller. And we like to keep it in the center, but if it's covering up the action, don't put it in the center. You can move it off to the side. Like that, click apply, and that's it. And this works on all, whether it's desktop, mobile devices. It's an in-app browser, in-browser app that you can use. I've also been asked when I'm going to update the theme for next year. Well, that will come at the end of June sometime, because we're not supposed to use that until next Rotary year.
I think that's a good one, Sean. Thanks. And when I asked Sean to do this before, he says, well, okay, so should I share this? I said, well, how about the app that you created that is a huge benefit to people when creating their People of Action pictures. So we wanted to make sure we got that one on today. And it's very easy. And if anybody has any questions about how to utilize it, certainly I know a guy that's fairly familiar with that app, right, Sean? So thank you. Now we'll hear for the first time today from Amber Scarborough, a member of the South Austin Rotary Club down in Austin, Texas. She is in her second year as one of our public image assistants. And, you know, Amber, you and Patrick Harrison are quite the PI team in Central Texas, and do a lot to interact with the districts down there. What do you think the most meaningful piece of advice you've given to club public image leaders has been in the past couple of years?
That's a really good question. And Kyle, I actually had a hard time narrowing it down to one. So I'm going to break it into two, but they're quick.
That's fine. Patrick's not here.
Yeah.
We'll explain that in a minute. So
I'll take his.
Sean have his minute, which would have been 8 minutes.
Perfect. Good. The first one is just not to be afraid of this stuff. I don't think a lot of people realize I have no formal education in marketing or public image. This is not my thing. It's not what I do for a living. I've never taken any classes on it, but I'm not afraid to kind of get in and just figure it out. And I think that's one of the biggest things for Rotarians. The learning and the growth happens when we just take on the challenge and learn something new. So don't be afraid is number one. And number two, and I love that we're having a whole series dedicated to it, public image is everything. So it's not just our social media and our websites and our brochures. It's everything about our club and our vibe and our locations and all of these things. And I think when we start viewing ourselves as that, public image is all of it, it really helps us kind of start seeing the ways that we can improve our public image.
I think that makes sense. And yeah, and it is. I'm like you. I don't have any formal training on this either, but it's being okay just trying. And like I tell my business partner / father, who his knowledge of computers sometimes is a little frustrating, but I'll tell him, you know, usually before you do something really bad on a computer, it's going to ask, are you sure? And that's the same thing in the public image sphere and in anything we do in normal life. There's usually somebody that's going to ask, are you sure, if it isn't a good idea? And I think that's just having the courage to take the leap every now and again is a good thing there. So yeah, thank you for that. And thanks, Sean, for your thoughts as well. Hopefully that was brief, but hopefully people in the audience were able to at least take a little bit away that they can utilize there. And we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end. So if anybody has any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them there. So now we are going to transition to our double feature deep dive for the month, because we just thought this was interesting enough that we're going to kind of spend the majority of our time on it. Our deep dive is typically a time where we can go deeper on a particular topic of interest, rather than try to tackle this and everything else when we're together in person at a training session. This allows us to spend more time without overloading you or just overwhelming you, frankly. So as the weather gets nicer, as I said, the weather gets nicer and COVID is at least in a downward trend at the moment. More clubs are back thinking about fundraisers. So today we thought it would be good to focus on fundraising. And Amber, do you want to tell everybody a little bit on how this is going to work today?
Absolutely. And I wanted to mention, Patrick did want to be here today, guys. He's actually having like real technical difficulties, like no electricity at the house right now. So there's no Wi-Fi. So he couldn't join us, but he was going to be here to help us kind of do this fun interview style. So the way it's going to work is we're going to have a conversation about principles of effective fundraising. I'm going to ask Kyle the questions, and he's going to give us some great insights and feedback on how to maximize the effectiveness of club fundraisers. And then we're going to switch seats, and Kyle's going to ask me questions about promoting your fundraisers. That's going to be our format for today. Again, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat, and I'm going to be monitoring that, and we'll get them asked as we go along. All right, Kyle, you ready?
I'm sure.
All right.
We'll go there.
So a lot of people in the region have heard your story and heard rumors of this amazing fundraiser you guys do at the club. It's the Lakefront Music Fest. But what other fundraisers have you been involved with?
Well, other than the Music Fest, which has been 11 years worth and has raised several $1 million at this point, our club in the past, we did a Valentine's Gala, dinner dance, live auction, silent auction that raised anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 in most years. Very fun event that we just kind of ran out of gas on at one point. And we also did a bike-a-thon to raise money for DARE, the DARE program in our community, which we did 22 years, I think, of that bike-a-thon, and raised over $600,000 for the DARE program locally over that time as well. And that one was kind of fun because my dad was actually the guy that came up with the idea back when I was in like 6th grade. While we were on a bike ride, he said, "Hey, what if we had a bike-a-thon to raise money for DARE?" And then he ran it for a number of years. And then the last several years before we ended it, I actually got to be in charge of it and kind of helped revitalize it. And I'll talk about that a little bit as one of the examples in the future here. But those types of things, as well as we used to do a club raffle as an additional way to raise money for the club. And then as an assistant governor and district governor, I've been involved with some of the other local clubs and their fundraising events. Farmington Rotary, a town not too far from us, had their own country music festival for a number of years that I got to have kind of an inside look at, as well as a neighboring community here has a taste of their community event, which is very successful, raises $100,000 plus every year.
You know what? I realized the way I asked that question did take for granted that everybody does know the big music festival, but we've got a lot of people here from my region that might not know what it is. You want to give us a little bit of that as well? I'm sorry.
So back in 2007, I'll make this real short.
This is an audible.
Yeah, in 2007, we did a club visioning event, and we were talking about what potential fundraisers people may want to see. And two guys from our club said, "Hey, we had this idea to put on a music festival," and it so happened that it became one of the ideas that the club voted on as one of the highest ideas. And at the time, I was our president nominee, and the first event was going to be potentially during my year as president. So the president-elect before me said, hey, why don't you help this go along through? So help maneuver it through, board discussions, club discussions, and everything like that. We had the first event in 2010. And then it's grown since then into it was a 1-day jazz and blues festival the first 2 years, and it's grown into a 2-day rock and country festival that last year we had about 18,000 people per night, and our gross profit, or our net profit was over $1 million last year. So and it's put on by our club. We utilize the community for volunteers, about 1,300 volunteers, volunteer shifts, I should say. But just a great community event that I don't want to go too far into that one because that's not the purpose here, and I don't want people intimidated. But yeah, it's a sizable and it's a pretty fun event.
I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I think that's a really great point. You've done some really large ones and also a lot of other type of fundraising. You've also been your district's Rotary Foundation chair.
Yeah.
Very successful one.
Well, it was fun. And I think you take some of those same principles of fundraising that we'll talk about. And we did that for fundraising for the Rotary Foundation. And even during COVID, we set records for annual fund contributions and Polio Plus contributions in our district because of the attention and the energy that we brought to fundraising for the foundation. And we did it through some special fundraising drives that created excitement and awareness, and more people apt to give and to give larger amounts because of what we were, how we were going about that. And we'll talk about that in a second too.
So obviously fundraising is important to you and you're very good at it there.
We try.
What I want to know in the larger conversation, how it all works together, the fundraising and the membership and the public image, and bringing it all together, that bigger role. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
And I'll share my screen for a second. We often see the graphic of how membership, public image, and the Rotary Foundation need to work together, and how each of them feeds off each other. But I think when you look at fundraising, that feeds in as well. The more money we make as a club, the more we can do with that money in terms of projects. And then when we're promoting our projects and our fundraisers, it makes our club more attractive to people within the community, and more people know about us, which means they're going to come to us for help so we can do more projects that way. But it's also a matter of more people are going to be interested in joining our club then. And that's where that membership side of things comes into play. And the more we grow our membership, then, well, the more people and ideas and energy we can put towards the fundraising and project side of things. So I think having quality fundraisers in a club not only makes money for the club, which is good, but it also allows for more people to connect to the club, to be engaged in the club, both as members and as the public. And that's a huge membership recruitment piece of it.
Love that visual. I love the update of including the projects and the fundraising. I know we always include the foundation in it, but it goes kind of back to that conversation. Public image is all of it.
Right.
So I think that's a really great image. What are the main principles of effective fundraiser that you would suggest clubs think about?
Sure. And I would say there's 3.5 of them. And I'm going to share this again. Number one, it comes down to it's creating awareness for your club and your causes. You should use your fundraisers so that the community knows who you are, that they know what you stand for. Utilizing your fundraising opportunities as a chance to promote. Here's what we're raising funds for, so they know who you are, what you're doing. If you're having an event, or if your fundraiser in a club is very internal, where you ask a member, that was one of the reasons that we got rid of our Valentine's Gala, was because by the end of it, it was just all of our members going and spending money on other members' items that they brought to the event. And we just kind of went, well, we're not getting any bang out of this as a result. So I think an effective fundraiser is one that's going to create awareness for your club and for your causes. Also, it's going to, as we just talked about, making people want to be a part of the event and your club, having a fun event, which kind of is number 3 as well. They're fun for the public and members. And it's key that it's public and the members there. If your fundraiser isn't something that your members want to be involved with, they're not going to put in a lot of work at it. And so I think we need to focus on making sure that our events are such that our members want to be involved in it. They think it's fun. They think putting on the entire event and the planning of it and every part of it is interesting, and they can see the payoff because then they're willing to put in more of their time and effort. And that transfers over then to the public as well. When they see that you're having fun in your event, and it doesn't matter if it's an 18,000 person event or a 200 person event, when they see that you're having fun, they're going, okay, this looks like a cool organization to be a part of. And if it's an event that they want to be a part of, I mean, people like going to concerts and having a beer or 4. Well, they're more likely to go at that point. And so making sure your events are fun and they want to be a part of things. And then what happens is attendees end up seeking out your club to join the club. And the 4th one, obviously, making a little bit of money never hurt anybody from that perspective as well. So that would be the other kind of key part of it. But we put that one lower because I think if you do the first 3, the positive revenue will come. And you can't just focus on that off the get-go. The energy has to be a part of it.
I do think it's an important one to include on there because I know a lot of clubs are working really hard on a project and not making enough money for the amount of time that they're putting into it. So it's a good evaluation too. Are we making our efforts fruitful?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, going back to when we started our music festival, the first year we had it, we didn't charge admission. We sold over $100,000 worth of beer, had 8,000 or 9,000 people there, and lost $25,000. The second year, we had about 2/3 of the crowd, charged $5 for admission. So much smaller crowd, but charged a little admission, made 25 grand. And even at that point, we kind of said, well, we're going to have to do some things different here if we want to keep doing this, because this is a lot of work. Well, we changed up some things for year 3. It included the 2 nights, changed the type of genre, a couple other things, and came up with it. We made 120-ish. Now, we still said, okay, if we're only going to make 120 grand, and this is a little bit embarrassing almost, but if we're only going to make 120 grand for all the effort that we're putting in, is it worth it? And it became, well, how do we continue to grow this then, and having that plan going forward to make sure that people stayed engaged in it? Because making the right amount of money for the effort is important. And if you're doing a lot of work for very minimal gain, is it time to look at something else?
But again, like a really good important piece, that first year, you guys weren't afraid of it. You went ahead and dove into it, and the learning and the growth happened along the way. So
yep. I also had a bag packed because I was the club president coming into it, and I signed the original contracts for the bands. I had a bag packed for Canada just in case. So
no joke. I'd say I want to address that we've got some great comments and questions happening too. And one of them, I'm going to come back to you, Logan, because I love the question about communication. We're going to get back there. Catherine Watley just came in though and asked about the PowerPoint, and that tees up perfectly this next question I'm about to ask you too. All of this is going to be available, right, on our Zone 25B29 website. So under the tool resources, toolkit, yes. Yeah. So the PowerPoints will be available there. And I love this next section because you've put together a wonderful list for us. I think this is a great takeaway for people. Additional tips and tricks that you'd encourage us all to know.
Sure. Well, and as as anybody that's been around me at all a little bit here, you know that I like my top 10 lists. And so I put together a 10 tips for effective fundraisers that I just kind of want to go through a little bit. Number one would be finding the right fit, for your club and community. What is the vibe of your community, and make sure that your fundraising efforts add to the community. Don't do something that is much different than how your community is. A club up here in the Twin Cities area, I got a kick out of it. They meet at a very nice golf course, and a lot of their members would be members, or a lot of members of the club would be members of that type of golf course. And they had a scotch and cigar tasting. Well, because their members liked it, but I don't know that the public at large was necessarily going to care too much about a scotch and cigar tasting in the private room at this golf club. And you just need to be careful about how to engage the community and engage your club. It just is going to depend on who your club members are as to what type of event they may be interested in as well. Number two, have a plan, work together, be organized. Anything that's going to happen, the better you plan in advance, the more successful it's going to be. And it's going to be a lot easier to recruit other people in your club to be involved as well, because then you're going to be able to say, hey, here's our plan. What part of this can you take? And if everybody's got the goal in mind and know how it's going to work, then it's just everybody working together. And that fits a little bit with number three, is getting club buy-in. If we go back to those two guys that they happen to be neighbors, and they had the idea for a music festival. In fact, they came up with the idea while they were on their pontoon one day. And if there wouldn't have been buy-in from the club, we wouldn't have been able to do that event. And other events that we've tried, without sufficient buy-in from the club, you're not going to be successful. So make sure not only it's something that fits your club, but communicate it in a way where you're not telling members what to do, or, hey, we're going to do this now, you better get involved. But build that buy-in, be able to communicate with them to let them see what it could look like, help them get excited about it, so more people are going to want to be involved. This is something that's throughout Rotary. We're not employees in Rotary. So to tell a club member what they need to be doing, they have enough stuff they're doing with their time. They're going to tell you to take a leap. But to get that buy-in, get them excited about something, that's going to build more success. Utilizing member talents. Who does well in your club? And frankly, this could mean something specific, like Amber, even though she has no training on any of this, has gotten really good at putting together the technical side of things on marketing materials and things like that. Well, utilize that. But the other part is, a lot of your members are probably have worked in businesses, run businesses. Well, none of us in our club have any idea how to run a music festival. But when 8 or 10 of us were sitting around a table as a steering committee and looking at it as, how would we make this decision if this was our own business, and looking at it from 8 or 10 different angles, well, we had enough business acumen and skills and talent to make sure we were coming up with the right idea. And that those things all transfer over. And it's not just, well, we don't know anybody that knows how to do this particular thing. Well, somebody's probably going to get close enough if they have the right skill set for it. So make sure that you're identifying who's good in your club at different things. I write the script for our event, the timeline and all of what the MC says and everything like that. Well, I'm good at that because I'm very organized. Other people in our club that aren't organized, that's not going to be a very good job for them. Put people in positions that are going to be successful. Share and borrow ideas. And this is, again, in any Rotary aspect of things, but we're all on the same team, and go look and see what other clubs are doing well, or what fundraising activities another club is doing, and borrow their idea. Ask them, hey, how did you do this? and get help from them. I'm sure if anybody came to your club and said, I'd like to learn more about your event, you'd go, cool, I'm happy to share with you about the event, because you want them to be successful as well. So share and borrow ideas from other clubs, because it's just going to make it more beneficial. We've had many clubs and other organizations ask about our fest, and I've always told them, I'm happy to help you with one caveat. You can't have your festival on the same day as ours. I mean, just because you don't want that competition. But other than that, let's work together on things. Effective promotion, which Amber will talk about more, but you need to be able to promote your event, whatever it is, in the public, so that people know what you're doing, when it's going to be, why you're doing it, all of those things. Obviously, promotion is key, and I'm not going to rain on Amber's parade there. Getting the community involved. It's huge, especially if you're going to do an event. Well, I'll say this a couple of different ways. Number one, do fundraising events that involve the community, because then it's the community's money that you're raising, not your own members' money. Your members are giving enough time and energy and everything, and money in other ways. So do it. Let people come and bring money in. But in order to do that, you need to get community buy-in, and you need to involve the community in different ways. And a great way to do that's through partnerships. Make sure you have a good relationship with the city or the school district or other organizations that can be main players. I mentioned we need 1,300 volunteers for our event. Well, we've gone out, there's 27 different community groups that volunteered in some capacity as a group last year. And we set it up so depending on the shifts you're working, we will make a donation back to your organization. 27 groups, 6 of them were other Rotary clubs. And we gave those 27 organizations over $75,000 right off the top to help their organizations be successful. So creating more partnerships, it not only does it makes the scale of your event larger, but it also allows for more labor on the ground. And then it's okay to grow. It doesn't need to be a finished product day one. I mentioned first year we lost 25 grand. Well, we knew that we were going to have to grow over time. That's just the way it works. No event is going to be perfect day one, and you need to keep looking at, okay, how can we make this better? And it's okay if it didn't meet the end goal you had year one. It's that saying, perfection is the enemy of progress. See, as long as you're going the right direction, keep going that direction. And I think a key part of that too, leadership versus management. Make sure you're leading the event, not managing the event. That Dare Bikeathon, my dad was in charge of it for a number of years. We raised $30,000 to $40,000 each year. Another person took over after a while and started managing it rather than leading it. Trying to limit the amount of time it took our club members to be involved, and didn't come up with any new ideas or anything, just kept trying to run it back. Well, the second we say, okay, cool, we did a good job, let's do it again next year. Now, how do we make it easier and more efficient? Because that's the way we all think about things. Well, the first thing we lose there is the energy. And without that energy, you're going to go downhill. And the year before, another guy and I took it over, we got down to, we raised $13,000. We took it back over, re-energized it, rebranded it, made $45,000. We were over 40 the next 5 years. Those were the 5 best years we'd had in the event, and it almost died before that. It's leadership, getting that energy, getting people excited about things, conveying that. That's what people want to be a part of. If you're just managing it without that energy, it's not going to be as successful. And that comes down to, like everything, it's having fun. If you're having fun with an event, you can imagine with an 18,000 person music event, how many committee meetings we have. Well, most of them are held at bars with those committees. You're getting to know each other. Yeah, do they take a little bit longer than they usually would? Sure. But we're getting to know each other. We've become friends. Now we want to be around each other because it's fun. And then we can celebrate at the end when we're sitting there and we got 18,000 people going, wow, we did this again. Holy cow. It's cool. Make sure you're having fun along the way and you're celebrating as well. So those are the top 10 tips that I would give you. And yeah, we will be sending this out afterwards as well. So Amber.
Excellent. I love it. And I think that kind of circled in some partnerships, and Lynn had brought up a really good point in here in the chat section that was going on during that. But plugging into other people's as well. And you kind of said that about mixing in with other already established fundraisers. So I think that's a good point. Before we transition though, I did want to take on Logan's question. Is that okay? Can I go ahead and jump in here on this one?
Sure.
You might not have seen it yet. But
I had copy and pasted it, but I hadn't actually read it. So go for it.
It's a good time to go ahead and take this one on. Public image within our club, I think, has suffered. People miss things because of communication. I think this is a big problem a lot of clubs are having, is how to effectively communicate with each other. So I thought I'd kind of pose that up. I know I'm loving, there's a couple of great text services that can do mass texting to groups. I think that's something that clubs might start investigating and looking into, but also using like a Gmail account, president at Rotary Club of, that can pass on year by year. That might be a way to help with the transition of information and communicating with our clubs. And I just thought I'd throw those two out. I don't know if you had any other ideas to throw out to Logan on that one.
Yeah, I think from a internal communication, making sure it's aligned, there's not a one size fits all necessarily, because everybody in the club is going to look at different things. Some people might like texts or emails or a newsletter, or they don't want to be bothered or whatever. So I think the more you can have multiple ways of broadcasting messages, it's an important thing. And having emails, one thing that we did in our district when I was district governor was our district administrator sends out the majority of the emails. But if it was something really important, I would send it out from my club runner account, because hopefully when somebody sees that it's from Kyle and not Kathy, they're paying a little bit more attention to it. So I think that's one way to at least, make it so when there's something very urgent, that it's coming out from a different place that people are more apt to pay attention to. And like somebody said, it's a club assembly. It's a combination of, you need to make announcements at club meetings about things. You need to send emails about it. You need to send follow-up emails about it. If it's really important, you need to make a phone call every now and again. All of those things need to happen from time to time. So, and we can touch on that a little bit more as we go here. But so Amber, are you back on now?
Yeah, sorry about that. Technical difficulties. I lost internet.
You're back. So that's good. So, okay. So now we're going to transition to your side of things now. So
there was one more. Did you take on the logo that he asked about?
We'll get to that at the end, I think.
Okay. I think Pam put a little chat in there too, just in case. That's helpful.
Okay. So we'll come back to that. So I want to give you enough time here before people have to start jumping off. So we talked about principles of effective events. Now let's go into properly promoting it. Tell us about the different stages of promoting an event and who are the audiences you're trying to connect with, things like that.
You bet. And let me share my screen now too. There we go. So I've got this broken up into pre-event, day of event, and post-event. And this really is a presentation. It's got a lot of meat and potatoes in it, but I'm going to kind of give the highlights of it. And just how to break down the big task of promoting an event. It really is in 3 stages. The first one being pre-event. So I think the most important thing to do when you're starting your event is to start with a press release. Not necessarily because you're going to utilize the press. Maybe you're not even going to get press there, but the exercise of having the club board or the committee that's involved with it go through identifying your who, what, why, where, and when. And write out the language that you're going to use to best describe your event. Just gets everybody on the same sheet of music. It allows everybody to be communicating the same who, what, why, where, when about the event. And then that can translate into everything we're going to do to promote the event, right? So it's the same language we're going to use to create our flyers, to promote it on our website, to make a web page for it, to create an evite, to invite people to come to the event, or to create your tickets that they're going to purchase through a Facebook event. But all of that language is going to be used over and over and over again. So if we can just start with the committee sitting down and taking the time to properly write out a press release, it really helps the rest of that flow along really nicely. Does that make sense? I'm watching for heads. Okay. The other one, then also to properly contact our local media before as well. So I do want to give that a little bit of time in this pre-event. Here's an example of a press release, and I use it visually because it looks good. We review press releases for clubs all over Central Texas and all of Texas, actually. And we see a whole bunch of different kinds, but I think it's important for you to look professional. If you are going to send it to the press and try to get some coverage, let's look professional. So make sure you're using a properly branded, using the correct master brand logos, that you've got the contact information up there. And I think what I point out on this, the who, what, why, where, when, but most importantly, the why. I think one of the most important things on a press release is to include a quote of what the feel good, the heartstrings that we're pulling on, why this event is impactful, right? And make sure that that is very clear on the press release itself. And then don't forget to talk about Rotary. Like, we see these press releases and sometimes they're really well written and it just totally forgets to mention Rotary Club or Rotary in general. So make sure you're actually talking about our organization in the promotion as well. I think it's important to include Rotary not just as your club, you want your club represented, right, for the event, but also that it's part of an organization. It's 1.2 million passionate individuals. That's an okay thing to include in our marketing when we're getting it out there. We're part of a larger organization as well. So it's a press release. Let's talk about navigating that media before the event. We really do want to have those relationships with our media before we're about to launch something. Consider inviting them to lunch to start a relationship. Patrick always loves this example of the weatherman. The weatherman's always willing to come and do a club presentation. I think that, or weather lady, either way. Invite them to become and know your club as well. But then when you're ready to actually present with a press release, again, we want a professional looking one page. They don't need all of the details. They don't need who's doing what, when, where, right? They just need the guts and the why of the event. Very clean and concise. And then you're going to email that to the press desk a week or two ahead of time and just follow up and make sure that they received it, ask for it to be on the calendar for that specific day for coverage. And then we like to call back the day before. So if we've sent that email off a week ahead of time, we've asked them to put it on the schedule, and then the night before, we'll sit down and just call all of those news stations and say, hey, is it on the schedule for tomorrow? Again, we're not talking to them about the event. We're not giving them the details. We're just following to make sure that the press release that we've professionally written has been received and is on the schedule. Navigating the media. So that was kind of the before events, but I think most importantly, it's not about what you're doing. It's about why you're doing it, right? So always going back to that why.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And that's the part that, you know, that's going to engage more people. When they know why you're doing it, then they're going to care more as well. So now, just because you've done work leading up to the event, obviously you want to be mindful of the attendees at the event because they're kind of a captured audience at that point that you can communicate to. So how should you promote, or how should you communicate with people and promote your club and causes during the event?
Perfect. I'm going to go to our next slide here for that one.
Oh, it's actually, like we planned this, Amber.
Yeah, it's like we did this. And actually, I am going to go back because I don't have that slide in here. So I'll just leave it on this one.
We're just going to say that was Patrick's slide that he was.
That was Patrick's slide.
Yeah, we'll blame him.
We don't need a slide for this. Guys, look good. Show up looking like Rotary, right? We want to be branded properly. We want all of those good looking Rotarian at work shirts with the right logos on them. We want some great brochures to hand out that people can grab. Paper is great at events. We want them to walk away with a little beautiful branded rack card that says all about Rotary International on the front and what they're a part of, and on the back tells all about your specific club, when you meet, where you meet, how much your lunch is, right? All the details that they can walk away from that event and go, oh yeah, I had a really good time at that. So making sure we have good paper products to hand out to folks and that we're all looking good and we're taking action photos throughout the event, right? So none of the, we're standing around with our arms around each other, presenting a check, not those photos. We're taking the photos of us actually working and serving together and having a good time, having fun and being in action. So getting all of those great photos throughout the event as well. Oh, and then there is some interacting with the media on the day of the event. So I did want to give this one to you as well. On the day of event, if you do are fortunate enough to have the media show up, your press release worked and they actually showed up to cover you, you want to make sure that you've got somebody assigned to them to walk with the media person the entire time. That's not the club president. It's not the people doing the service projects. That's somebody dedicated to making sure the media is getting the story and knows where things are going on at. Okay, they want to be able to point out, hey, this is the hook. This is who you're going to interview here in a little bit. That interview person, that's your on-camera person, that might be your club president or your committee chair. They need to have their talking points ready. They need to be ready to speak on camera. So let them know ahead of time. Give them some good talking points about Rotary being the #1 service organization on the planet and what all is going on in this amazing project that they're doing today. And let them be prepared to speak on camera and echo those points of the press release, the who, what, why, where, when. And then make sure we're representing Rotary in your specific club. So that's the day of.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And you were talking about, you know, who's going to speak to the media and such. That kind of goes back to utilizing members' talents the right way, because some people probably you don't want them there because either they're not going to provide energy when they're speaking, or they're not quick on the feet to, you know, what is that person going to ask? You want to make sure the narrative is being controlled as much as possible there. Absolutely. So now the event's been a success. You had a lot of people there because you promoted well beforehand. You got the response you were looking for during because of all the things you were doing then. So afterwards, what should you focus on then?
It's not over. We're exhausted. We're tired. We've blood, sweat, and tears for 2 weeks getting ready for it. And we think it's over and it's not over. We want to make sure that we're following up and doing a couple of cleanup activities after the event as well. One of the most important ones is, again, if we did have press there, you want to make sure that that person that showed up, that you get their business card and you give them one of yours and you exchange for a follow-up email to get the reciprocal link to that coverage. Okay, so even if it airs, you're going to get the digital link of it. Or if they're just putting it on their website or they're writing a news story about it in the paper, there will be a digital link nowadays. And ask that camera person or reporter that showed up to get that after the event, because that's gold. We want to be able to share that on all of our social media pages afterwards, right? Look how cool our club was at this amazing event with a link to KXAN. That's really great search engine optimization, that SEO, because that link is going to go back to a big website with a lot of traffic. So those links are important and we want to get them. In addition, you want to share with your own district. Your district wants to brag about your event too. And I know Pam's on there shaking her head. Heck yes, right? They want content to be able to share out to all the other clubs in your district about what's going on. So make sure they get that information. Then, and I think this one's most important, it's the one we all fall short on, upload that event to Rotary Showcase. Guys, Rotary International has given us this amazing archivable place for our events to live forever online, where we can go back and visit them. We can share ideas. We can go look and see what other clubs are doing. But we can only do it if we're uploading our own events into that Rotary Showcase. And I think that that's a great reason to share, is so that we can all share information. But selfishly, I want to put my projects on Rotary Showcase so that I get that wonderful shareable link, again, that I can share on social media. It gives it a website, a place. Rotary International, again, a powerful website with good SEO. It gives our projects a place to live on that we can then share on our social media pages. So I think selfishly, there's some good reasons to put our projects in a Rotary Showcase as well. And then follow up with that same press release, or maybe even a post press release, just recapping what you did with those great fun action, high quality photos that you took throughout the event. And send those to some of the newspapers that are around. They love covering after events, and you can write it for them, send them the photos and the press release, and they'll just throw it in the newspaper for you. So follow up afterwards as well.
Perfect.
And that's
I think that
what I've
makes,
got.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks. And now, so we've covered the before, during, after. Anything else to touch on from your end at all, Amber?
No, I think that's it. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll have some time here in just a second. Yeah. So, and before we do open it up, reminder that registration's open for the next 3 webinars as well. And I'll put the links back in the chat box here again in a second, and they'll be sent out during the recap of this meeting too. And, we do want to focus on those success stories and giving best practices and ideas for clubs and districts to try. So if you know of any success stories, you've seen something in your district or another district or whatever that you think should be showcased about how public image helped make things better, let us know, because I'd love to be able to showcase them as well. We have plenty of ideas, but we want to also focus on what is important to you all as well. So with that, let's open it up for some questions. I know we covered Logan's first question about the making sure internal communication is aligned, and I think and one additional thought on that, Logan, as I thought about it a little bit more, is make sure that the president and whomever else are going to communicate are talking, that they're talking, so then it becomes more aligned communication out to the club as well. If you're in a position of leadership, or if you want to help with that, have those one-on-one conversations with the other person or people that are involved, so that you can put on that more united front. That was just one other thought there. Your other question about what does everyone do for social media pictures, since Rotary Club logos are horizontal? I think, Pam put a link there. Logan, does that answer your questions at all? I'm not sure.
That's actually a really interesting debate that we've all been having, like in the backgrounds, about how to do our profile pictures. So those of us that are the ones running that in your club, like, this has been a heated debate. Can we use a Rotary wheel for our profile picture? And they just came out with new regulations on this. Correct, Pam? I'm looking at you as I'm saying this. RI just gave us direct affirmation that we can use just that mark of excellence, just the Rotary wheel as our profile picture, as long as, and this is important, your timeline photo has your club master brand somewhere on it. So that when somebody goes to your Facebook page, they're seeing the timeline photo with the mark of excellence at the same time. So I think that that's a really important distinction. I just wanted to thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see, and then we had the question on Lynn asked the question about, we're talking about events, not necessarily other types of fundraisers, but it's the same thing. If we're raising money for the Rotary Foundation, well, a lot of those principles are still going to work. Have fun with it. We had good success because we had events, or we had a fundraising drive that it wasn't just overall, the whole year, but we had a focused period of time that we did put more energy into it and excitement, and they could feel that. And we rewarded people as well. Remember, it's good to say thank you to your members at the end of an event. Make sure they understand what their efforts help bring. And that's the same thing if we're raising money for the Rotary Foundation or a club foundation. What is this going to go do? That's that focusing on the why. How can we get more engaged and find how that person is going to be easiest to be connected to? If you, Lynn, the Tour de Tucson, the Ride to End Polio, if there is an event in your community that you can hop onto, when I was at Midwest Pets in Chicago a couple weeks ago, a couple clubs at whatever local event, a couple clubs run the beer tent. Well, that's part of the bigger. That's an okay thing, and that's especially the case if it's a smaller club. look to partner with another event that it's not as difficult to do all of the work, and just, the more work you put in, the more money you're going to make. But it's okay to hop on with somebody else, and it'll be beneficial as well. Yeah, Amber.
A couple of private chats coming in here. I wanted to give a shout out to Alex. Hey, Alex. He made a really good point. I want to just throw it out here to everybody. Canva, if anybody's not using Canva on here, I mean, that is a great free resource for clubs to be using. You can set it up with your club master branded logo in there. You can set up your brand kit with all of the correct colors. So it just makes design really easy.
Hey,
So
that's where I put together the logo or the little promo thing for these webinars. Yeah, it's Canva's a great resource, and I'm less tech smart than you are by leaps and bounds, and I've figured out Canva. So absolutely.
Yeah, but I have a Pam.
I have a Sean.
Oh, okay,
So.
that's right. You have a Sean. I love it. I don't know what we do without you guys.
Cry.
This was fun.
That's
It's
what
good
I
to
would
see
do.
everybody. And Patricia, I really enjoyed meeting your cat.
Yeah, that was that cat jumping on there. Any other questions that anybody has? We have a few minutes here. If anybody wants to just raise their hand, either virtually or for real. Not that I can see everybody, but there, now I can. If anybody's got any other questions or comments or anything. Scott, Sean, you guys are part of our public image team. Any comments from your end of the world?
Yeah, the only thing I had to add, I just put in the comments for everybody to read, but remember that, they've got us, the entire team here to help out, and all they have to do is reach out and ask for help. To try not to do everything on your own. There's a lot of talented people out here to help, so reach out and ask for help.
Absolutely. I think that's what we're all here for. And if we don't know the answers, that's, as the public image coordinator, I kind of went, well, I don't know everything about this, so I'm going to surround myself with really good people that do know everything about this. And if one of the 7 or 8 of them doesn't know the answer, one of us will know somebody that knows the answer. So we'll certainly be able to get an answer for you.
Or we'll make it up real good.
Yeah. That's I'm a political science major. That's what I majored in. So Sean, you looked like you were taking a breath to say something. I'll let you go. And then I know Susan has a comment as well after that.
I don't know.
Okay. I thought I saw it, but maybe not. Yeah. Susan, go ahead.
Well, this is just a comment, and I don't know that other areas have are so fortunate, but our club, we have about 60 members, and we're south and west of Pittsburgh. And we have what's known as LSA, local shares accounts that come from the casino. And we were fortunate enough to talk about a fundraiser. They helped us and gave us funding through the county commissioners and so forth. And we were able to renovate to the tune of $1.2 million, an antique, a Victorian space in the city park.
Cool.
And to be able to get that amount of money by filling out forms and being interviewed by the county commissioners, I mean, that's the best fundraiser possible. And I just wanted to share that with you.
Absolutely. And I just Googled it. It looks like that's something more, at least when I look up a local share account, it looks like it's a Pennsylvania specific thing, but
Yes.
but on a greater scale, it's a great example of looking for other areas of partnering with other organizations for the betterment of anybody. And, you can be the center of the wheel like our club has been, or you can be one of the spokes like, that or the Tour de Tucson or whatever it is. They're all good things, and we're all making the place better. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Thanks
that's
for
all.
sharing.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions or comments today? Well, cool. Then it's, Angela's got her hand up, or is she waving goodbye? I can't tell.
She has her hand up really.
That's true. I put it directly to you, but I apologize for being late. But
You're here.
did
That's
you
all
guys
that
talk
matters.
at all? Thank you. Yeah, I got here. I was only 15 late. So, did you talk at all about sponsors and sponsor packets and ways that you thank them and show their branding, like every place that if for their sponsor level, if they were on the banner or if they were on the program or on the table tents or whatever, taking pictures of those and then creating a packet that thanks them and shows where their branding appeared at your event?
I think it's a great idea, and it's one of those things that we did not talk about that directly, but that's certainly one of the post-event parts of things that you need to remember to do is thank the sponsors. And I think you gave some great ideas there, even of how to showcase that. You know, being able to let them feel like, you know, here we had this successful event, and look, here are the ways that you were part of it. That's a great way to do it. Yeah, absolutely. That's hugely significant. Thanks for the specific point. Amber, you got anything on that one?
No, I do think that is really, really important. I think it's something we should build out almost kind of as a toolkit. It may be some ideas that are branded for that. I love that idea and that you brought that up. I think one of the most underutilized things I see in clubs is that we should be providing those sponsors with like backlinkings on our websites, right? Mm-hmm. So like that is something that sponsors want to see. And Pam's done a really good job in our club of providing like at the bottom of the page, all of the organizations that we support and backlinking to those pages as well. So I think that that's a great conversation for us to continue having and training people on, Angela. Thank you.
And it's also, you know, obviously it's not just a logo or whatever, but it's a how can they be involved in the event in terms of, you know, a participant. We have some of our sponsors. Anybody that's a sponsor for the Music Fest gets so many, depending on your level, gets tickets and such like that. But a couple of our sponsors actually have gone above and beyond and have purchased another additional block of tickets to bring, you know, huge amounts of their staff and their families' staff. And now they're looking at that as a employee benefit, essentially, as a way to say thanks to their employees. And, you know, okay, give us enough money, we'll put up a tent for your company. It's quite all right with us, because, you know, the beer all buys the same. And but treating them so they can be a part of the event too, and giving them recognition during and focus on that afterwards and saying thanks is huge. It's huge. Mm-hmm. Thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else for the good of the order today?
Alex got something for us. What you got?
I was just going to commend Kyle, because my city's 300,000 people and we have decades of failure of music festivals. I mean, we've had one Rotary club lost over 6 figures. Yeesh. About 30 years ago. My Rotary club lost 6 figures. No, we lost 6 figures 30 years ago. Another one lost 10 years ago, and even the larger ones. So you would think with our high income and so many people, we'd be successful, and we're not. So whenever I hear you talk about yours, I'm just like in awe.
Yeah, it takes a certain amount of crazy, but it's been fun. It's been fun. It wasn't fun when we had to have the conversation about how we're going to cut 25 grand from the budget, but thankfully we didn't have to do that twice. So, all right. Well, then I think we'll be good for this time. Yeah, as we talked about, we will send out the links and the PowerPoint slides and everything afterwards, so you'll all get those. And again, if you have any suggestions on anything else you'd like to hear us cover, let me know, and we're here for any help that you need. Anything public image wise, we're here for you. So enjoy your, Angela, were you going to say something else there? Okay. I just saw this and then you went and looked like at your computer. So we're just want to make sure. Enjoy the day and have a good rest of the month, and we'll see you in
everybody.
April.